a prison where power ruled and fear silenced the weak, a new inmate walked through the gates calm, quiet, and black. The others watched him like vultures, whispering, mocking. To them, he was just another man who didn't belong. But to one ruthless bully, he was prey. Within hours, rumors spread that the new guy would be taught a lesson. What no one knew was that this quiet stranger had faced monsters far worse than any man in that prison. He'd fought for his life in cages, under lights, with the world watching, and every scar told a story. But here, none of that mattered. Yet, when the bully cornered him in the yard, everyone gathered to watch. They expected screams. What they saw instead, no one would ever forget. Before the prison gates closed behind him, Marcus Cole had been a man of discipline and MMA legend who'd once commanded roaring crowds and flashing cameras. But glory fades fast when life decides to hit back harder than any opponent. One mistake, a bar fight gone wrong, a man injured, headlines twisted, and suddenly, the champion became a criminal in the public's eyes. Now stripped of fame, freedom, and respect, Marcus was just another number in a system built to break men like him. Inside Iron Gate Penitentiary, survival wasn't about who was right, it was about who could command fear. The guards didn't care, and the inmates ruled their own brutal order. The color of your skin, the way you walked, even how you looked at someone, it could all become a reason to bleed. Marcus had seen enough in life to recognize the hate in men's eyes, but this was different. This wasn't just racism, it was entertainment to them. He kept his head low, spoke to no one, and followed the rules. The same focus that once won him titles now kept him alive. But it didn't take long for the wrong people to notice the calm in his silence. In prison, peace is mistaken for weakness. And to a man like Big Ray, the self-proclaimed king of the yard, Marcus looked like an easy target. Whispers began, "The new black guy thinks he's better than us." Laughter followed in the cafeteria, mocking his quiet strength. Marcus didn't flinch. He'd learned long ago that the loudest man in the room is usually the weakest. But when the days passed and Ray's crew kept closing in, blocking his path, bumping his shoulder, stealing his food, it became clear. The storm was coming. And this time, it wouldn't be a match in a cage. It would be survival in a pit of hate. Days turned into weeks inside Iron Gate. And Marcus's calm presence began to irritate the wrong kind of men. Big Ray, the prison's loudest and most feared bully, had ruled the yard for years. His word was law, his fists the punishment. He was a mountain of muscle, tattooed from neck to toe, and fueled by a cruel delight in breaking others. The guards looked the other way. Some even laughed when he humiliated new inmates. It was his playground. When Marcus arrived, quiet and composed, something about him provoked Ray's ego. "Ain't no man that calm unless he's hiding fear," Ray told his crew one afternoon. "We'll see how calm he stays when I'm done with him." The challenge was set long before Marcus even knew he'd been marked. Each day, the tension grew. In the cafeteria, Ray's men bumped into Marcus, spilling food on his uniform. In the showers, they'd block the exit, laughing as if waiting for him to react. Marcus didn't. He kept his silence, cleaning his tray, walking away, never once raising his voice. The guards noticed, the inmates whispered. A few even respected his restraint. But in prison, peace doesn't last long, especially when you're a black man who refuses to bow. Ray's crew began calling him Pretty Boy, mocking his calm nature and athletic build. One evening in the yard, they surrounded him near the fence. Ray stood at the center, smirking. "You think you're better than me, boy?" The word cut deep, a racial venom Marcus had heard before, but this time it carried a threat. He looked at Ray once, expressionless, then turned to walk away. The yard went silent. No one had ever turned their back on Big Ray and walked off breathing. The next morning, Ray made sure everyone knew what was coming. "Today," he growled, "the yard gets a show." The rumor spread fast. The new black inmate was going to get destroyed. Even the guards were betting quietly on how long Marcus would last. When the sun rose over the cracked concrete yard, the tension was thick enough to taste. Marcus sat on the edge of the bleachers, eyes closed, breathing slow. His mind wasn't in prison, it was in the octagon years ago, where the noise of the crowd vanished before every fight. He had learned to see violence before it came, to anticipate chaos and control it. But this wasn't a fight for belts or pride. This was about survival. And respect out at noon, the siren blared for yard time. Ray strutted out first, followed by his crew and a crowd hungry for spectacle. The guards leaned on the fences, pretending not to notice. The sun blazed down as the circle began to form around Marcus. Ray shouted across the yard, "Time to show the new guy how things work in here." Laughter echoed off the walls. Marcus rose slowly, stretching his arms, calm as still water. For a second, the crowd hesitated. Something in his composure didn't fit the role of a victim. But before they could think twice, Ray charged forward, swinging a massive punch meant to crush. Marcus moved like lightning. Years of training, muscle memory, and instinct exploded in a single moment. He ducked, sidestepped, and drove his elbow into Ray's ribs with surgical precision. The sound a deep thud cut through the yard. Ray stumbled, confused, his grin fading. He came again, angrier this time, throwing wild punches. Marcus didn't fight back with rage, he fought with control. 2 strikes, 1 block, and Ray was on his knees gasping for air. The crowd froze. They had never seen Big Ray bleed. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus didn't smile. Didn't gloat, he just stepped back and said quietly, "I told you. I don't want trouble." But trouble was already unleashed. Ray's pride was shattered and humiliation burned deeper than pain. That night, the whispers spread through every cell block. The black inmate dropped Big Ray. The same man who once mocked. Marcus now looked at him with awe or fear. But Marcus knew the fight wasn't over. In prison, one victory only paints a bigger target on your back. And when hate runs deep, strength alone isn't enough to save you. That night, the prison buzzed with unease. The yard was quiet, but whispers filled the air like smoke. No one had ever humiliated Big Ray before, and no one had walked away from him alive afterward. Inmates peeked from their cells, waiting for the payback they knew was coming. But Marcus, sitting alone on his bunk, felt no fear. Years of discipline had hardened his nerves. He'd fought champions, men with skill and hunger. But hatred was different. It was wild, blind, and far more dangerous. When the lights went out, the plan began. 3 men from Ray's crew crept through the darkness, knives hidden, faces tense. The guards didn't look twice. They knew what was about to happen and didn't care. To them, it was just another night in Iron Gate. But for Marcus, it was a test of everything he'd ever learned about control. The door to his cell creaked open. A whisper, "Now." Then chaos. One swung first, the blade slicing through air. Marcus moved, instinct taking over. A strike to the wrist, a kick to the knee, a twist knife on the floor. Another lunged. Marcus sidestepped, sending him crashing into the wall. In seconds, the cell became a blur of movement, grunts, and pain. The third man grabbed him from behind, arm locked around his throat. Marcus felt the world dim for a moment, but then he shifted his weight, slammed his attacker backward, and rolled free. The man didn't get up again. When the lights flicked on, guards rushed in. The scene was chaos. 3 men on the floor, groaning, bleeding, one unconscious. Marcus stood in the middle, chest heaving, eyes cold. He hadn't killed them. He didn't need to. His restraint spoke louder than any punch. The warden arrived, furious, demanding answers. But as he looked at the security footage, his anger turned into silence. What he saw wasn't a fight, it was precision, control, mastery, something you couldn't fake. Later that week, a quiet meeting took place. The warden called Marcus in, his tone different this time. "You could have killed them," he said. "Why didn't you?" Marcus looked him in the eye and replied, "Because I've already fought my hardest battles outside this place. I'm not here to prove I'm dangerous. I'm here to prove I'm not who you think I am." Word spread fast. Even Ray, nursing broken ribs in the infirmary, didn't speak Marcus's name again. The bully who once ruled by fear now stayed silent. For the first time in years, Iron Gate felt different. The inmates had seen something that night, something that shook them. Power without hate. Strength without cruelty. Weeks passed after the fight, and the rhythm of Iron Gate slowly returned, but something fundamental had shifted. The man who once ruled through fear now walked with his head down, and the one they mocked for his silence had become a name whispered with respect. Marcus hadn't just survived, he had changed the balance of power. Even the guards looked at him differently. Some nodded when he passed. Others avoided his gaze, unsure whether to fear him or admire him. To Marcus, it didn't matter. He hadn't come here to win a reputation. He came here to remember who he was before the world decided to label him a criminal. One morning, as the inmates lined up for roll call, a young prisoner barely 20 stood beside Marcus. His hands shook, his eyes filled with quiet desperation. "How'd you do it?" he whispered. "How'd you stay calm when they hated you for just being you?" Marcus looked forward and answered softly, "Because I've already fought men stronger than hate, and I never let them turn me into one of them." That line spread through the prison like fire. It wasn't shouted or forced, it simply became truth. The yard grew quieter. The mockery faded. For the first time, men of different colors began to nod at each other in passing. Not friends, not brothers, but human beings sharing the same breath in the same cage. Months later, Marcus was released early for good behavior. As he walked out through the iron gates, the same gates that had swallowed him whole, he paused. Behind him, he could still hear the distant echoes of the place that tried to break him. Ahead of him, sunlight. Freedom. The world outside hadn't changed much. Racism still burned in hearts, headlines still carried hate, and justice still stumbled. But Marcus had changed. He knew that true strength wasn't about how hard you could hit, it was about how long you could stay standing. When the world tried to knock you down. As he stepped into the light, he whispered to himself, "Some cages are built from iron, others from ignorance. The first one, I escaped. The second, still working on it." And with that, the man they once called the quiet black inmate walked away, not as a victim, not as a fighter, but as proof that dignity can survive even in the darkest corners of the world.